Welcome back to Mind Twist Horror. I know many of you drift off to these stories each night. So before sleep pulls you under, let's do something a little different. Drop a comment below and tell me where in the world you're listening from tonight. It's always fascinating to see how far the darkness travels. And if these stories are keeping you company, go ahead and like the video. Subscribe, so she knows where to find you. Now, lay back, close your eyes, and listen closely, because tonight's story might follow you into your dreams. I was never supposed to hear her voice. Not in this house. Not after what happened. Not after what they buried here and tried to forget. It started on a night just like this one. The rain was soft at first, almost comforting. The kind of sound that lulls you to sleep. But somewhere, beneath it, I heard something else. A whisper. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't the rain. It was her. And the moment I heard it, I knew I shouldn't have come back. What you're about to hear isn't a story. It's a warning. Because she's still here. And if you listen too closely, she might follow you too. The cabin hadn't changed much. Not in the years since she passed, and certainly not in the decades before that. The same crooked porch rail. The same faded shingles curling at the edges like dead leaves. And that same weather-worn brass knocker on the front door. The one shaped like an angel, with one wing broken clean off. Grandma never liked visitors. I stood there for a long moment, keys in hand, just staring at it. Not because I was afraid, but because something in me, something old and hidden, didn't want to go inside. It was too quiet out there. No birds. No insects. Just the sound of the rain trickling through the trees like fingers on glass. Even the air tasted still. Like a room that had been sealed shut for years. And shouldn't have been opened. When I stepped inside, the floor groaned beneath me. Not like it was old. Like it was surprised. The smell hit me first. Not dust. Not mildew. Something sweeter. Decayed. Like wilted roses, or dried blood. The wallpaper was yellowed and peeling in the corners. The same old oil painting still hung crooked on the walls. I passed the mirror in the entryway and caught my reflection. For a second, I thought I saw someone standing behind me. But when I turned, nothing. I used to stay here every summer when I was little. Back then, it didn't feel haunted. It felt old-fashioned. Cozy in a way that only old family homes can be. But now, walking through those rooms again as an adult, it was different. Like the house remembered something I didn't. Like it had been waiting. I dropped my bag in the old guest room. The wallpaper there was blue, faded to gray. Same iron-framed bed. Same oak dresser. Same dusty window. But there was something new. A faint scratch along the wall. Thin, vertical, almost like nail marks. 5 of them. Dragging down from the ceiling. All the way to the floor. I wanted to believe it was nothing. That it had been a raccoon. Or something scratching around in the attic. But I remembered what Grandma used to say. She had rules for this house. Strange ones. Never leave the mirror uncovered at night. Don't open the basement after sunset. And if you hear her calling, don't answer. I used to laugh at that. Thought it was just her way of scaring a kid into behaving. But now I wasn't so sure. The strangest part? I hadn't thought about those rules in years. Not until I stepped into that house. And suddenly, I remembered every single one. That night, as I lay down to sleep, the rain tapping soft rhythms on the roof. I could feel the house watching me. Not just creaking and settling like old homes do, but breathing. Waiting. And when the lights went out, that's when I heard it again. I should have left. I should have walked out right then. But I didn't. Because some part of me wanted to know what she wanted. I didn't sleep well that night. The bed was firm, the sheets cold. But it wasn't the comfort that kept me awake. It was the quiet. Even with the rain tapping on the roof, the house itself was too still. There were no distant cars. No night birds. No creaking pipes, no humming refrigerator. It was the kind of silence that feels unnatural. The kind that doesn't wait for you to fall asleep. It waits for you to listen. I turned onto my side, facing the wall. The pillow smelled faintly of lavender and mothballs. That was when I heard it. A sound I hadn't heard in years. The old pendulum clock down the hallway, ticking. Tick. Tock. Slow. Precise. Too loud. It used to sit in Grandma's sitting room. She wound it every Saturday morning without fail. But that clock had stopped years ago. I remembered that clearly. I remembered because the last time I saw it, it had fallen. Shattered. So why was it ticking? I sat up slowly, eyes adjusting to the darkness. No night light. No hallway bulb. Just the faint gray glow from the window. And that relentless, rhythmic tick. I stepped out into the hallway. My footsteps were slow, careful, silent. The house smelled different now. Less like dust. More like damp earth. And that perfume again. Roses. But wrong somehow. Faintly rotten. The sitting room door was cracked open. Just a sliver. I hadn't left it that way. I know I hadn't. Inside, the room was dark. Only moonlight filtered in through broken blinds. And in the center of the room, the pendulum swung. Left. Right. But the clock's glass face was still shattered. The hands were rusted. And yet, it ticked. I reached out to stop it. Just as my fingers touched the pendulum, the lights above me flickered. Once. Twice. And then everything went still. Even the ticking. I turned around, expecting to find the hallway empty. And it was. But something felt different. Like I had walked into a room that someone had just left. The air was heavier. Thicker. And colder. I walked back to my room slowly. One hand on the wall. My fingers brushing against the old wallpaper. Which felt damp, like it had been sweating. When I stepped inside, the lamp I'd turned off before bed was on. Just a soft, amber glow. But I remembered turning it off. I always do. I froze. The dresser drawer was open. Not all the way. Just a couple of inches. Enough for me to see that the old music box inside it had moved. Not much. Just shifted to the left. But I hadn't touched it. I hadn't touched anything. I closed the drawer. Turned the lamp off. Got back into bed. Tried to convince myself. It was all in my head. The ticking. The drawer. The lamp. But as I pulled the blanket over my shoulders, I noticed something on the floor, just by the foot of the bed. A wet footprint. Bare. Facing the bed. Just one. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even close my eyes. Because I realized something. This house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt watched. I waited for the sun to rise. But in this house, it didn't feel like it ever truly did. Even at 9 a.m., the rooms were wrapped in shadow. As if the light itself refused to linger too long inside. I decided to clean. Partly because the dust was overwhelming. And partly because I needed something to keep my hands busy. I started with the hallway closet. A cramped little thing near the attic stairs. Inside were 2 coats. An old broom. And a wooden box pushed all the way to the back. Carved on the lid was a name. Eleanor. My grandmother. It was a simple box. No lock. But when I opened it, I felt it immediately. That weight. Not physical. Heavier than that. Like the air grew colder the moment the lid lifted. Inside was a journal. Wrapped in linen. Bound in cracked leather. And the moment I touched it, the lights flickered. Just once. Enough to make me freeze. The first few pages were harmless. Grocery lists. Notes about flowers. But by the 5th page, it changed. She came again last night. The whispering started after the 3rd bell. I kept the mirror covered, but I still saw her behind me. Watching. Smiling. I told Father Dugan. He said she's tied to the land. But I know better. I know she's tied to me. I didn't breathe for a moment. My fingers trembling slightly as I turned the next page. The basement door opened on its own this morning. I thought I'd locked it again. I know I did. She's trying to come up. I heard her scratching. I heard her breathing. And then, in red ink, whatever happens, never open the basement after sunset. I flipped the journal shut. And I swear, I felt something move past me. No sound. Just that chill. Like someone brushing close to your neck. I turned. Nothing. I placed the journal on the table. Sat down. And stared at the basement door across the room. It was closed. Deadbolt locked. Exactly how I'd left it the day before. But now, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. A smear. Just below the doorknob. Dark. Rusty. Faintly red. Like someone had pressed their fingers there. Or, tried to get out. I didn't want to believe it. Didn't want to accept that Grandma had been hiding something. But the signs were there. In the box beside the journal. I found 3 things. A tiny silver crucifix. A roll of twine, knotted with strange symbols. And a mirror, no larger than my palm, wrapped in black cloth. With a single note pinned to it. If you hear her voice, do not answer. If you see her face, do not look away. I closed the box. Slid it back into the closet. And I told myself I'd be fine. That it was just old superstition. Family ghosts and creaky floorboards. But deep down, I knew. This wasn't just my grandmother's haunting. It had been waiting. For me. They say some houses remember. But this house remembers everything. And it doesn't forgive. That night, I went to bed earlier than usual. I had planned to leave the next morning. Tell myself I came, sorted through her things, and left before anything strange could really start. But the truth was, it had already started. I just hadn't accepted it yet. I turned out the light. Pulled the covers up. Let the rain lull me into something close to sleep. And for a while, it worked. My breathing slowed. My thoughts faded. And then, I heard it. A single creak. From above me. Then another. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Pacing. back and forth, across the floorboards directly above my room. There's nothing up there. No attic floor you could walk across. Just insulation and rafters. I knew that. But the sound was real. Wood bending under weight. Like someone, walking in circles. Like they were waiting for something. I sat up in bed. Every part of me screaming to stay still. But something pulled my eyes toward the door. That's when the handle moved. Not once. Not quickly. It turned slowly, with pressure. The sound of metal clicking. Bending. My mouth was dry. My heart thudding in my ears. I didn't move. And then. The knob stopped. The footsteps above went silent. And the room was filled with that awful, awful stillness again. I don't remember falling asleep. But I must have. Because the next thing I remember. I couldn't move. My body frozen. My chest heavy. My eyes, wide open. I was awake. But I couldn't scream. Something was in the room with me. I couldn't see it. Not at first. Just the faintest shape. Standing in the corner, near the dresser. Not moving. Not breathing. Just there. Watching. Then, it stepped closer. Not walking. Just, drifting. Like it was made of smoke. Like it was sliding through the air. It reached the edge of the bed. Leaned down. And I felt it. Cold breath. On my cheek. And a voice, not quite a whisper. But lower. Like it came from the floorboards. From the walls. My heart slammed against my ribs. My eyes burned with tears I couldn't blink. And then. Just like that. It was morning. The room empty. The door still shut. But the scent of roses still hung in the air. I told myself it was a dream. A half-sleep hallucination. That my mind had made it up. But when I stood and stepped onto the floor, I felt something sharp. I bent down. And picked up a small piece of glass. Curved. Smooth. Like the edge of a broken mirror. I hadn't broken any mirrors. At least, not yet. But something told me. That piece had come from upstairs. From the place no one was supposed to walk. From the place Grandma never let me go. And whatever left it behind wasn't finished with me yet. Something changed after that night. It wasn't just the footsteps. Or the whispers. Or the shadows where there shouldn't have been any. It was the feeling. Like the house had decided. It didn't want me to leave. I woke the next morning. Tired. My bones ached. My skin felt raw. When I rolled up my sleeve, I noticed it. 3 thin red marks just below my shoulder. Parallel. Evenly spaced. Not deep. But fresh. It looked like something had scratched me in my sleep. But my nails were short. No jewelry. And the bed? Smooth. Untouched. The sheets were still tucked around me. As if I hadn't moved all night. I told myself I must have leaned against something. Maybe brushed past a splintered doorframe. But there was something else. A smell. Roses again. And something beneath it. Cold. Like ice water on metal. The rest of the day passed in a haze. I barely ate. I kept hearing things. Not loud. Just the subtle kind of noise that brushes the edge of your sanity. A spoon rattling in the sink, though I hadn't used it. A radio clicking on for a second, playing static, then silence. The sound of a woman humming. Too faint to follow, but always close. That night, I lit a candle instead of using the lamp. Something about electricity felt too fragile in that house. The shadows moved more honestly by fire. Or at least, I thought they did. I laid down early, exhausted. But I couldn't sleep. I kept the covers close to my chin. Watched the candle flicker on the nightstand. It cast the room in gold. But even then, the corners felt dark. Too dark. Then, the candle went out. Not flickered. Not burned down. It blew out. As if someone had leaned in and exhaled. I turned quickly. My heart pounding. But there was no one there. Just the dark. And that cold feeling. Like someone had just stepped away from me. My breath fogged in front of my face. Inside. In a room with closed windows and no draft. Then, I felt it. A hand. Cold. Not grabbing. But resting. On my shoulder. Fingers, pressing softly. As if someone was leaning down. To whisper something I didn't want to hear. I jerked away. But no one was there. My shoulder still burned from the cold. I ran to the mirror, heart in my throat. And for just a second, I saw her. Not clearly. Not directly. Just behind me. A woman. Long hair like a veil. Her face gray. Her mouth too wide. Smiling. And then, gone. I stumbled backward. Fell to the floor. And when I looked at the mirror again, it was cracked. Not broken completely. Just one thin line. Down the center. Like the house had blinked. I didn't sleep again that night. I couldn't. Because every time I closed my eyes, I felt them. Her fingers. Cold. Delicate. On my neck. On my chest. As if she were trying to find the right place to enter. At some point. Maybe around 3 a.m. I sat up in bed. Looked at the wall across from me. And in the moonlight, scratched faintly into the paint, were 5 words. You let me in already. I never wrote those words. I swear to God. I never did. They say mirrors can't lie. But they can distort. They can twist truth. Stretch it. Until it snaps. That morning, after another night without sleep, I walked into the bathroom. And something felt wrong. The air was colder. The light, just a little dimmer than I remembered. And the mirror was already fogged. But I hadn't taken a shower. I hadn't even turned the tap. I wiped my palm across the glass, clearing the condensation, and stared into my own eyes. But something didn't look right. The skin around them was darker. Almost bruised. And my mouth. It was turned downward. Expressionless. But in the mirror, my reflection was smiling. Not a big grin. Not a cartoonish smile. Just the faint curl of a mouth that knew something I didn't. I blinked. So did it. I tilted my head. So did it. But the smile stayed. I stepped away. And the mirror caught up. Almost like it lagged behind me for a second. Like something had to decide to let the reflection follow. I avoided it after that. Turned the mirror around. Covered the one in the bedroom with a towel. But reflections, they don't only live in glass. The windows. The kettle. Even the water pooling in the sink. I kept catching glimpses. Things that weren't there when I turned around. One afternoon, I was walking past the hallway mirror. Just a glance. But I froze. Because I wasn't alone. Behind me, in the reflection, stood a woman. Pale. Still. Dressed in black like morning silk. Her face was turned away. But I could see her smiling in the mirror. A grin too wide. Too calm. For something that shouldn't exist. I turned around. Fast. But the hallway was empty. Dead silent. No footsteps. No breath. Just my own heart. Pounding like it wanted to leave my chest. I looked back into the mirror. And she was gone. But my reflection? It was still smiling. Then, it raised its hand. Just a little. A wave. But I didn't move. I stumbled back. Slammed my shoulder against the wall. Knocked the mirror from the hook. It hit the ground. Shattered into dozens of shards. And in each tiny sliver, I saw her. Over and over. Her eyes. Her grin. Leaning closer. Closer. Until the edges of the glass began to bleed. I backed away. My foot caught something. I slipped. Fell onto the hardwood. And for just a second, I swear, I saw myself crawling toward me. Not the real me. Something that wore my face like a mask. Something hollow. And smiling. The mirror was supposed to be neutral. A tool. A reflection of light and shape. But in this house, it's a doorway. And tonight, I know she'll use it again. I've covered every mirror now. Duct-taped cloth over the bathroom. Hung an old bedsheet in the hallway. But the thing is, I still see her. Not just in reflections. In my sleep. In the corners of the room. Sometimes even behind my eyes when I blink. And I'm starting to wonder if the thing in the mirror is me. There comes a point in every haunting when you need proof. Not for anyone else. Just for yourself. To know you're not losing it. That what you're hearing, what you're seeing, is real. I remembered Grandma's old tape recorder. A black cassette model she kept in the kitchen. She used to play folk hymns on it while cooking. I found it in the pantry drawer. Still working. A fresh pack of AA batteries. And it was ready. At first, I hit record and left it in the hallway overnight. Just to see if anything would happen. When I listened back the next morning, it started with static. The hiss of silence. And then, something breathed. It wasn't wind. It wasn't plumbing. It was breath. Long, slow. Like someone standing over the recorder. Listening back. Then came the voice. Not loud. Not shouting. A whisper buried in the hiss. Almost like a chant. Low, rhythmic. And the words were in a language I didn't know. But they weren't random. They repeated. Over and over. Like a ritual. Mira, Rhoda, mihi, Rhoda, dona, sanguinum. Over and over. Until the voice changed. A woman's voice. Clear. Sharper. She wasn't chanting anymore. She was angry. He took what was mine. I waited in the mirror. Now I want it back. I dropped the recorder. My hands were shaking. I'd listened to it 3 times. Each time hearing something new. Like her voice was deeper inside the tape. And it was just peeling away the layers to show more. I sat on the floor for a long time. Just holding it. wondering if she had spoken to Grandma. Or if the voice had always been there, waiting for the right ears. That night, I set the recorder by the foot of my bed, pressed record, and left it running until morning. When I played it back, it started the same way. Static. Hiss. My breathing. But around 3:12 a.m. she spoke again. Asterisk, you let me in. But you don't look at me, asterisk. Look. At me. Look. I stopped the tape. Rewound it. Played that part again. This time, there was something else layered underneath her voice. A child's voice. Crying. Softly. In the background. As if from underground. I think that's when I realized. She wasn't just haunting me. She was telling a story. And I was part of it. The final thing on the tape wasn't a voice. It was a sound. The sound of the basement door unlocking itself. The house never wanted to let me go. And by the time I knew that, it was already too late. Because the door, the one I had never dared open, was already open. I didn't hear it at first. Just a soft, steady creak. Like wood giving up a secret. When I turned the corner, the basement door stood wide. The lock undone. The bolt slid cleanly out. And behind it, a staircase swallowed in black. I should have turned back. I told myself that. Over and over. But I also knew. This was what she wanted. And part of me needed to know why. I lit a candle. My phone's flashlight had died hours earlier. I held the flame in front of me. Each step creaking beneath my weight. Like the house was holding its breath. The air grew colder the deeper I went. Not natural cold. Cold that felt aware. I reached the bottom. My candle barely flickered. As if the darkness itself didn't want it there. I turned in a slow circle. And that's when I saw it. In the farthest corner of the basement. Behind a stack of rotting boxes. There was a space I'd never noticed. A crawl space. Just tall enough to enter hunched over. And inside. A shrine. Candles. Long extinguished. Symbols scratched into stone. Bones. Dolls. A broken picture frame. Glass missing. The photograph burned along its edges. But I could still make out part of it. A woman. Pale. Black veil. Smiling. Beneath the frame was something wrapped in red cloth. I didn't want to touch it. Every instinct told me not to. But my hand moved anyway. Like it wasn't mine. I pulled the cloth away. And found a mirror. Just like the one in Grandma's box. Just like the one I saw her through. It was cracked. Clean down the center. And inside the glass. I didn't see myself. I saw her. Closer than before. Her smile wider now. Her eyes black. Her mouth, moving. But I couldn't hear what she was saying. The candle blew out. Just like before. But I wasn't alone in the dark. I felt the cold hand wrap around my wrist. Fingers long. Thin. And then. The whisper. Inside my own head. You were born from me. Bound to me. And now. You'll finish what she wouldn't. I dropped the mirror. But it didn't shatter. It sank. Into the floor. Melt. Into the dirt like water. And in its place. Something rose. A figure made of ash and hair and breath. Her arms outstretched. Her face. Mine. I don't remember screaming. I don't remember running. But I woke up in the front yard. Just before dawn. Mud up to my knees. Candle wax burned into my palms. And the basement door was shut again. Locked from the inside. She didn't want me to find the mirror. She wanted me to bring it back. The house was never hers. It was hers and mine. And now I see her. Every time I close my eyes. There's a certain kind of silence. That doesn't come from peace. But from truth trying not to speak. And after the basement. The house felt quieter. But not in a good way. In a way that felt like it was waiting. I went back upstairs. To Grandma's room. I hadn't touched it since the night I arrived. But now. I knew the answers were there. The drawers were full of things that meant nothing at first. Handkerchiefs, rosary beads, brittle old Polaroids. Until I found the book. Leather-bound. Locked. Tucked into the lining of her old suitcase. The key was in her locket. Inside were pages. Handwritten in a language I didn't know. Margin scribbled in red ink. Symbols that made my stomach twist. But halfway through, she switched to English. And the things she wrote. I'll never forget them. I was young. I was curious. I opened a door I could not close. She came to me in the mirror. Beautiful. Fractured. Promising to make him love me again. I bound her to the bloodline. To protect me. And now. I see her in your face. Asterisk. Grandma didn't find the spirit. She summoned her. Bargained with her. Gave her a name. And a place to live. And when Grandma died. She didn't leave. She waited. The journal said I was the next. Not just a visitor. Not just a relative. An anchor. A vessel. Grandma had sealed the spirit with a blood oath. Her own bloodline. Which meant. When I walked into that house. I finished what she started. That's why she whispered. That's why she smiled. She wasn't trying to scare me. She was returning to me. I wasn't just haunted. I was hers. I should have run. Burned the house. Erased the name. But I didn't. Because deep down. I felt it too. That pull. Like home. The last page of the journal said one thing. No ink. Just a burn mark shaped like a handprint. And beneath it. Etched into the leather. If you read this. She's already in you. Asterisk. The dream wasn't a dream. The house wasn't cursed. It was a promise. Passed down. From mirror to mirror. From breath to breath. And I'm not afraid anymore. Because she's here now. And she's part of me. I told myself it was over. That I could run far enough. That fire could undo blood. That if I burned the house, I'd burn her too. I poured the gasoline down the staircase. Across the basement door. Splashed it on the mirrors. Every last one. And I lit the match. I didn't watch it fall. I just walked away. Never looked back. The sky opened up. Thunder cracked across the treetops. Rain came in sheets. But the house kept burning. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, I've slept in a different place every night. No mirrors. No candles. No rooms without windows. And still, I hear her. In the storms. In the soft static between radio stations. In the reflection of my car window. When I'm too tired to blink. She doesn't whisper anymore. She sings. And I've started to hum along. Without even realizing it. I burned the house. I buried the mirror. I even destroyed the tape recorder. But nothing. Nothing ends something like her. She wasn't bound to a place. Or even a bloodline anymore. She was invited in. Every time I speak her name. Every time I tell this story. I feel her. Listening again. She followed me. Through ash. Through reflection. Through the sound of my voice. And now. She's listening with you. If you've ever woken up. At 3:15 a.m. Heart pounding. Skin cold. And no reason why. It wasn't just a dream. It never is. That's when the veil is thinnest. When they know you're between sleep and waking. When she's closest. Maybe tonight you'll sleep easy. Maybe. She liked listening with you. Before you go. Tell me something. In the comments. What's the scariest thing you've ever heard at night? A voice? A knock that came with no one there? I want to know. Because she loves to listen. And if you're still with me, still awake. Next time, I'll tell you the story of the boy who never made it out of the attic. He thought the scratching on the floorboards was just rats. It wasn't. Sleep well. If you can. She's already watching.